You don't become wealthy by working harder. You become wealthy by building something that works harder than you ever could. Most people never escape the cycle of trading hours for paychecks. They wake up, go to work, get paid, and start over again tomorrow. It feels normal. It feels responsible. But deep down, something whispers that this cannot be the meaning of life. Because real wealth, the kind that brings calm, freedom, and dignity, doesn't come from endless effort. It comes from assets, quiet machines that keep paying you long after the work is done. Machines you design once, but benefit from forever. The wealthy understand this. They don't chase money. They build engines. Engines that run while they sleep, while they rest, while they live. And today, you're about to learn those same principles. Not theories, not hype, but the timeless laws of building assets that outlast you. Assets that buy back your time. Assets that free you from the pressure of working until the end of your life. In this audiobook, you'll discover why the richest people in the world think differently about time, money, and opportunity. You'll learn how systems multiply your effort, how small beginnings grow into unstoppable streams, and how your skills, your ideas, and even your habits can become lifelong income. By the end, you won't just understand wealth. You'll see it, you'll feel it, and you'll know exactly how to build it, one asset at a time. So take a breath, relax your shoulders, and prepare to step into the mindset that transforms ordinary people into owners. This is how you build assets that pay you forever. There is a moment in every person's life when something shifts. A quiet realization, a subtle discomfort, a soft whisper inside the mind that says, I can't live like this forever. Maybe it happens on a late night after work. Maybe during a lunch break when exhaustion feels heavier than usual. Or maybe it comes in the silence of a morning when the alarm rings and your body rises before your spirit does. It's the moment you realize you're not just working. You're recycling the same day, over and over again, and calling it a life. Most people feel this moment, but only a few listen to it. From childhood, society trains us to believe that income is something we earn with our presence. Show up, clock in, work hard, hope for a raise, repeat. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. If your income depends on you being physically present, then your freedom is borrowed, not owned. You may be responsible, you may be hard-working, you may be skilled, loyal, admirable, but you are not free. Not when your entire lifestyle can disappear, the moment your body needs to rest, or when life throws a storm you didn't expect. Real wealth begins with a simple yet profound shift. You stop seeing yourself as the source of income and start seeing yourself as the architect of systems. This is the moment you break free. Imagine this for a second. If you stopped working today, not forever, just for 1 month, what would happen? For most people, everything collapses. Rent, bills, debt, obligations. Life doesn't pause just because you need a break. And this is the silent prison that millions live inside every single day. A prison many defend with phrases like, "That's just how life is. I need stability. I can't take risks." But what if the greatest risk was staying exactly where you are? The wealthy see the world through a different lens. Where most people see a job, they see a temporary stepping stone. Where most see income, they see leverage. Where most see effort, they see opportunity for replacement and automation. They know a truth that changes everything. Your time is too precious to be spent on tasks that a system, a tool, or a machine could do for you. You were not born to exchange the hours of your life for just enough money to survive. You were born to create, to design, to build something that lives beyond your physical presence. But before building assets, you must confront a deeper reality. How much of your current identity is tied to the idea of earning? Because for most people, the trap isn't financial, it's psychological. We grow up believing that working hard is the same as building a life, but hard work alone has never been the engine of wealth. If it were, the hardest working people in the world would be the richest. They are not, because effort without leverage becomes exhaustion, and exhaustion is a silent thief. It steals creativity. It steals clarity. It steals the desire to dream bigger, think longer, and design wisely. There is a reason wealthy people protect their time more fiercely than their money. Money can be regained. Time never returns. When you understand this, a new perspective opens. The purpose of work is not to earn it, is to build engines that will earn for you later. This is the beginning of liberation. Not quitting your job, not rejecting responsibility, but detaching your survival from your labor. Every wealthy person, every builder of assets, every creator of systems had a turning point. A moment when they said, "I refuse to trade my lifetime for income anymore." They realized something most people never see: income that depends on your presence will always be temporary. But income that depends on your design becomes permanent. Think of it like this. There are two paths in life. Path 1. You work for money. You earn only when you show up. Your income is a reflection of your hours, your energy, your availability. When you stop, the income stops with you. Path 2. Money works for you. Your time is the seed. Your systems are the soil. Your assets are the trees. You build once, and the fruits keep returning season after season. Whether you are working, resting, traveling, or sleeping, the machine continues. Most people are stuck on path 1, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack awareness. No one teaches them that they can switch paths. No one teaches them that income isn't something you chase, it's something you build. Breaking free from income slavery begins with a question: what if my time wasn't the source of my income, but the architect of it? This question alone can shift the trajectory of your life. You start thinking longer, slower, smarter. You begin noticing opportunities that were always there but invisible. Skills that can be turned into products. Knowledge that can become assets. Ideas that can become systems. Platforms that can automate your work. You recognize that the world has changed radically. Technology has leveled the playing field. You no longer need permission, capital, or prestige to create something that outlives your effort. Today, anyone can become an asset builder if they learn how to think like one. And thinking like an asset builder starts here. You separate your value from your labor. You separate your identity from your productivity. You separate your income from your presence. From that moment on, you are no longer controlled by the clock. You become the one who controls it. This is the first step toward the freedom you've always sensed, always hoped for, always imagined in the quiet corners of your mind. A freedom built not on effort, but on structure. Not on hours, but on ownership. Not on survival, but on design. And once you take this step, your life will never look the same again. Most people go through life believing that more effort equals more income. Work harder, stay later, push more, sacrifice more. But what they don't realize is that effort has a natural ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day, only so much energy in the body, only so much attention the mind can give before it fades. Effort may build survival, but systems build wealth. A system is anything that continues producing results long after the initial work is done. It could be a business, a piece of content, a rental property, a digital product, an automated service, a portfolio of investments, a set of habits that compound over time. It doesn't matter what form it takes. What matters is continuity. A system keeps working even when you're not. This is the secret, the wealthy guard. Protect and pass down. They understand that money does not flow to the hardest worker. It flows to the person who builds the smartest structure. Think of a farmer. He can carry buckets of water to his field every day, exhausting, repetitive, temporary. Or he can build an irrigation system once and let the water flow forever. Most people carry buckets. The wealthy build pipelines. And here's the truth. Many avoid because it challenges their comfort. Your life right now is a reflection of the systems you have or the systems you lack. If everything collapses the moment you stop working, then your life is powered by effort, not design. And effort, no matter how honorable, will always be temporary. But once you understand the power of systems, everything begins to shift. The hidden power of leverage. A system is powerful because it introduces something effort alone will never give you leverage. Leverage means your work creates more output than the input you put in. It is the silent engine behind every fortune. When a YouTube video earns for years, that is leverage. When a rental property produces monthly income while you sleep, that is leverage. When a skill becomes a digital product that sells automatically, that is leverage. When an investment compounds without your involvement, that is leverage. Leverage turns your decisions into workers. It turns your ideas into employees. It turns your creativity into engines. And the wealthiest people in the world aren't wealthier because they work harder. They're wealthier because they have more leverage than everyone else. Why most people rely on effort? Not systems. It's not because they're incapable. It's because no one ever taught them the alternative. School teaches effort. Jobs reward effort. Society praises effort. But the world quietly pays systems. The employee is trained to think in hours. The entrepreneur thinks in assets. The investor thinks in compounding. The wealthy think in decades. Systems require patience. Effort gives immediate results. And because most people crave instant reassurance, they cling to effort like a lifeline, even when it slowly drains their future. But here is the moment of truth. If your income is tied to your effort, you will always be limited by your effort. But if your income is tied to your systems, you will always grow beyond your limits. How systems protect your time. Time is the great equalizer. Everyone, regardless of wealth, gets the same 24 hours a day. So how is it that some people feel like their life is overflowing with space, calmness, and opportunity, while others feel like they are drowning? It's the presence or absence of systems. Systems create time. Systems multiply time. Systems protect time. Imagine having parts of your life running automatically: income, content, investments, distribution, marketing, sales, while others are stuck responding to every demand. You are building a life that responds for you. This is why wealth feels calm. It's not about luxury. It's about relief. Relief from pressure. Relief from fear. Relief from the constant need to keep running. Systems turn life from survival into sovereignty. The wealth builders shift from labor to architecture. To build wealth, you must stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a designer. Workers ask, how much can I earn today? Designers ask, what can I build today that will earn for me every day after this? Workers think in tasks. Designers think in systems. Workers earn once. Designers earn forever. And the shift doesn't require genius or money or privilege, only awareness. Once you start looking at the world through the lens of systems, you'll notice things you never saw before. Every app is a system. Every franchise is a system. Every online course is a system. Every automated store is a system. Every successful creator is a system. Every investment portfolio is a system. The world runs on systems. You simply haven't been building them for yourself yet. Examples of simple systems anyone can build. You don't need millions. You don't need degrees. You don't need permission. You need three things: time, consistency, and the courage to start small. A simple system could be a digital product that sells automatically, a YouTube channel earning from 1-2 videos a week, a blog that collects traffic for years, an email list that sells while you sleep, an investment portfolio that grows quietly in the background, a habit system that compounds your skills. These are small machines. But small machines, over time, become massive engines. People often underestimate what they can build in 1 year of consistent system design, but they overestimate what they can earn in 1 day of effort. This is why systems win. The uncomfortable truth: systems require letting go of control. Effort feels safe because you are in control. Systems feel uncertain because you build something that must operate without you. But freedom requires letting go. You cannot hold everything and own everything at the same time. Let go of the belief that you must do everything yourself. Let go of the belief that income must come instantly. Let go of the belief that hard work alone leads to wealth. When you release these beliefs, you become free to create. You are no longer a worker, you are a builder. This chapter is not asking you to work less. It is asking you to work differently. Work with intention. Work with foresight. Work on things that continue working without you. Because once your life runs not on effort, but on systems, everything changes. Your days feel lighter. Your choices feel wider. Your future feels clearer. And the pressure you've carried for so long begins to dissolve. This is the first law of wealth. Effort creates moments. Systems create freedom. Time is the most mysterious currency in human life. Everyone has it. Everyone spends it. But only a small fraction of people ever learn how to use it in their favor. Most people measure time in hours. The wealthy measure time in outcomes. Most people ask, how long will this take? The wealthy ask, how long will this pay? Most people trade time for money. The wealthy trade time for systems. This shift, subtle yet profound, is what creates the invisible divide between those who survive and those who accumulate freedom. Because time is not something you have. Time is something you deploy. And every deployment has a consequence. The invisible price you pay every day. Every hour you spend doing something that doesn't compound is an hour gone forever. Not just the time itself, but the opportunities inside that time, opportunities to create, to learn, to design, to invest, to expand. People often say, time is money, but that is not true. Money returns. Time never does. Money lost can be regained. Money spent can be replaced. But time disappears with a silence so soft that most people don't even feel it leaving. When you understand this, your relationship with the clock changes. You stop asking, "How much can I earn today?" and start asking, "What can I build today that continues earning even when I sleep?" This is the mindset that separates financial stagnation from financial creation. The rich don't manage time, they multiply it. Most people try to control time by squeezing more tasks into their day. More work, more responsibility, more hustle, more pushing, pulling, grinding. But adding more tasks does not create more time. It creates more exhaustion. The wealthy operate differently. They don't try to outrun the clock. They expand what the clock can deliver. If a person with a worker mindset earns only when they are physically present, then their 24 hours produce only 24 hours of value. But a person with a builder's mindset, they can turn 1 hour of work into hundreds of hours of output through systems, content, automation, investments, and intellectual property. This is how the wealthy live outside the boundaries of time. While others age into tiredness, they age into leverage. The goal is not to manage time. The goal is to free time. The hidden cost of good enough. The danger is not in working hard. Hard work has its place. The real danger lies in spending your years on tasks that never grow. Tasks that die the moment you stop doing them. Tasks that don't build infrastructure. Tasks that pay once and never again. Most people live in a loop of temporary results. Today's work. Today's pay. Tomorrow's pressure. Repeat. They never question the cost of this loop, but the wealthy know a truth that most never discover. A life powered by tasks can never create freedom. Only a life powered by systems can. Every year spent working without building is a year paid once. Every year spent building systems is a year paid forever. This is why some people work for decades and never advance, while others work for a few focused years and unlock a lifetime of independence. The difference isn't luck. It's the way they use time. The rich understand compounding not just of money, but of time. People talk about compounding as a financial concept, but its true magic lies deeper. Time compounds when invested into systems. 1 hour spent building a digital product can pay you for 10 years. 1 hour spent recording a YouTube video can generate income 1,000 times its duration. 1 hour spent learning a valuable skill can become a lifelong income engine. 1 hour spent setting up automation and can save hundreds of hours in the future. The wealthy don't ask, "What does this hour pay?" They ask, "What does this hour build?" And that question alone changes your destiny. The true cost of delaying your dreams. People underestimate the price of waiting. They believe they're choosing stability, but they are choosing stagnation. When you delay building assets, you are not just losing time. You are losing the compounding of future freedom. The wealthy understand that the real cost of inaction is not regret. It is lifetime limitation. Every month you wait to invest, your future returns shrink. Every day you avoid building a system, your future time contracts. Every year you postpone starting your digital asset or personal brand, your reach diminishes. The clock is not against you, but it is not waiting for you either. Most people overestimate what they can build in 1 day and underestimate what they can build in 1 year. The wealthy do the opposite. They master patience. They master repetition. They master consistency. And consistency is the quiet architect of freedom. You cannot build wealth inside urgency. A worker's life is filled with urgency deadlines, tasks, pressures, demands. A builder's life is filled with intention strategies, designs, systems, investments. Urgency breeds panis. Intention breeds prosperity. You cannot build long-term wealth when you live in short-term reactions. You cannot design your future when you are busy putting out the fires of the present. This is why breaking free from urgency is the first step toward reclaiming your time. The wealthy protect their focus. They decline distractions. They choose depth over noise. They think in decades, not days. A wealthy mindset sees the present as a seed. A poor mindset sees the present as a burden. What you build today or fail to build becomes your reality tomorrow. The moment you shift from time consumer to time investor, there is a pivotal moment in every wealth builder's journey, the moment you stop spending time and start investing it. Invested time feels different. It feels calmer, more intentional, more meaningful. When you invest time into building assets, you feel it immediately. It's the feeling of planting something alive, something that will outgrow you, something that will one day take care of you. You begin to understand why wealthy people appear so calm. It's not the money, it's the structure. It's knowing that every hour they invest today expands their freedom tomorrow. Freedom isn't found in having more hours. Freedom is found in owning the hours you have. Your new relationship with time begins now. From this chapter forward, you will no longer look at time the same way. You will recognize its cost, its leverage, its compounding, its power to either trap or liberate you. Time is not the enemy. Time is the raw material of wealth. How you use it, how you invest it, how you protect it, will determine the life you live. And when you begin to see time the way the wealthy do, you unlock a truth that changes everything. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. So, use your time to build what creates more money, not what requires more of your time. Before you can build assets that pay you forever, you must first understand what an asset truly is. You must, not the textbook definition, not the oversimplified version people repeat without depth, but the essence of an asset, the energy it carries, the purpose it serves, the freedom it creates. Because most people don't fail at wealth building due to lack of effort. They fail because they don't know what they're supposed to build. They confuse busyness with progress, consumption with ownership, status with stability. They buy things that shine, hoping they will one day produce. But a shiny liability remains a liability. True assets are not loud. They do not scream for attention. They do not impress strangers. They work silently, faithfully, endlessly. To understand wealth, you must understand the asset equation, the simple but profound truth that governs how money moves. An asset puts money into your life. A liability takes money out of it. It sounds simple, but simplicity is deceptive, because while the definition is clear, people's behavior rarely is. A house can be an asset or a liability. A car can be an asset or a liability. Even something as small as a subscription, a habit, or a routine can either feed your wealth or bleed it. An asset is not defined by appearance. It is defined by direction. The direction money flows after you acquire it. If money flows toward you, it is an asset. If money flows away from you, it is a liability. This clarity alone can save decades of financial confusion. Why people mistake liabilities for assets? There are three main reasons. 1. Society sells comfort, not freedom. People buy things to feel good now, not to live free later. 2. Liabilities are visible. Assets are subtle. A car turns heads. A rental property doesn't. A luxury phone impresses. A dividend portfolio whispers. The wealthy choose whispering assets over screaming liabilities. 3. People use emotion, not math, to make financial decisions. They buy upgrades for validation. They buy trends for identity. They buy convenience for escape. But assets are built on clarity, not impulse, on long-term thinking, not temporary pleasure. This chapter is about helping you see the world the way wealth builders see it, not through price tags, but through value flows, the three forms of assets that pay you forever. Every asset that pays you forever fits into one of three categories. Once you master these categories, wealth becomes predictable, repeatable, and scalable. 1. Assets that produce cash flow. These are assets that send money to you consistently monthly, quarterly, annually. Examples: rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, digital products, online courses, affiliate websites, automated stores, advertising-based content. Intellectual property, cash flow, is the heartbeat of financial freedom. It is income that arrives, whether you are working, resting, traveling, or sleeping. People who rely on salaries live in fear of tomorrow. People who rely on cash-flowing assets live with confidence in every season. 2. Assets that appreciate over time. These items grow in value the longer you hold them. Examples: real estate, index funds, valuable domains, rare collectibles, intellectual property that gains traction, well-positioned digital brands. Appreciation is the silent multiplier. You don't see its power daily, but over years, décades, and generations, it transforms ordinary people into long-term owners. Appreciation turns time into your ally instead of your enemy. 3. Assets that protect and stabilize your wealth. These assets don't necessarily grow fast, but they protect what you have built. Examples: gold, government bonds, cash reserves, insurance, diversified funds, legal structures, and trusts. Protection is an overlooked form of wealth. People mistake safety for stagnation, but no empire survives without walls, shields, and defenses. Wealth that is not protected is wealth that will eventually disappear. The equation of wealth cash flow plus appreciation plus protection equal forever money. That is the asset equation. That is the architecture behind every fortune that lasts. You need all three. Cash flow gives freedom. Appreciation creates growth. Protection ensure survival. When these forces work together, you become financially unshakable. But here is what most people misunderstand. You don't need to build all three at once. You only need to start the first one, because cash-flowing assets are the engine that powers and funds the other two. Why people struggle to build real assets? It's not lack of resources. It's lack of identity. People identify as consumers, not creators; as workers, not owners; as spenders, not investors. But the moment you shift your identity, your behavior shifts with it. The wealthy see every dollar as a decision, every skill as potential, every idea as raw material. They ask questions most people never ask. What can I turn this into? How can I make this work for me? How do I multiply this instead of spending it? They understand that money is not meant to be held. It is meant to be deployed. The power of ownership. True wealth comes from one principle: own more than you earn. Ownership is what pays you forever. Ownership is what frees you from the clock. Ownership is what outlives your labor. And ownership has many forms: owning a system, owning a process, owning a platform, owning a product, owning a skill. You've turned into an asset, owning intellectual property, owning investments, owning attention, owning a product, distribution channels. Once you understand this, your life becomes a pursuit of ownership, not income. You no longer ask, "How do I make more money?" You ask, "What can I build that keeps paying me?" That question alone separates financial freedom from financial dependence. The new way to see everything you buy. From this chapter forward, every time you consider spending money, ask, does this feed me? Or does this drain me? Is this something I will own? Or something that will own me? Does this give me time? Or does it take my time? Will this still matter in 10 years? These questions act like a compass. They guide you away from temporary excitement and toward permanent prosperity. This is how wealthy people think. This is how wealthy people choose. This is how wealthy people stay wealthy. Because wealth is not luck. Wealth is philosophy. And assets are that philosophy in physical form. You are now ready for the next step. Understanding assets is not the end. It is the beginning. Now that you know what truly pays you forever, the next chapter reveals how to start small, start smart, and build assets no matter your income. Because wealth is not built by the rich, it is built by the intentional, and your intention begins now. Most people think wealth begins with abundance, abundant income, abundant opportunities, abondant ressources. But the truth is far more gentle and far more empowering. Wealth begins with a decision, not a dollar. Every person who eventually builds freedom starts from a point where they have less than enough, but choose to begin anyway. Wealth does not belong to the privileged. It belongs to the persistent, and persistence begins with small actions repeated consistently, even when they feel too simple to matter. Yet those small actions, done faithfully over months and years, become the architecture of a financial life that feels effortless and expansive. This chapter is about the real foundation of wealth, how ordinary people with ordinary incomes quietly create extraordinary futures, not through risky bets or lucky breaks, but through design, discipline, and the courage to start exactly where they are. You don't need more money. You need a better strategy. People often say they'll invest when they earn more, or start a business when they have extra savings, or build assets when life becomes easier. But most people are not held back by lack of money. They are held back by waiting for perfect conditions. And perfect conditions never come. Those who build wealth understand something different. You don't wait until you're ready. You become ready by beginning. If your income is small, your decisions matter more. If your resources are limited, your discipline becomes priceless. If your time is tight, your consistency becomes your superpower. Starting small is not a limitation. It is the blueprint. Your income is not a prison. It is a seed. A single seed looks insignificant, but inside that tiny shape is a forest waiting to grow. The same is true for your first $10 saved, your first $20 invested, your first digital product created, your first online post that gathers attention. These steps feel small, but they contain infinite potential. The wealthy don't ask how much they have. They ask how they can multiply what they have, because money doesn't respond to amount. It responds to direction. Every dollar either disappears or returns with reinforcement. The average person spends for comfort. The wealthy invest for expansion. There are 3 natural stages of wealth creation, and they apply to everyone regardless of income level. The first stage is building with time instead of money. When you don't yet have capital, you use creativity as your currency. You can begin by creating content, writing simple guides, offering freelance services, starting a blog, building an online audience, or crafting digital products. These are assets built from time. They cost little to begin, but can grow endlessly when tended with consistency. Your time becomes your equity. Your creativity becomes your investment. Your persistence becomes your compounding. The second stage comes when you have a modest income. This is when you begin to automate wealth. You consistently contribute to index funds, purchase fractional shares of real estate, buy dividend-paying stocks, build a small emergency reserve, or reinvest earnings from your digital work into better tools. Even small amounts, $20 or $50 a week, become powerful when they never stop. Wealth is not built by size, it is built by rhythm. Consistency will always outperform intensity. The third stage begins when your income grows. This is where you shift from accumulation to acceleration. You might acquire your first rental property, expand your online business, create high-value digital products, strengthen your personal brand, outsource certain tasks, and automate larger parts of your systems. This is where your small beginnings reveal their hidden strength, a snowball of growth that becomes too large to stop. People underestimate the power of compounding because it feels invisible. No fireworks, no applause, no instant reward. But compounding is not meant to thrill you today. It is meant to liberate you tomorrow. Saving $25 a week, creating content every few days, or investing a tiny portion of your paycheck may not feel life-changing in the moment. But the world's most powerful forces often begin quietly. Most people never start because small beginnings feel pointless. They forget that a digital empire can begin with a single post. A real estate journey can begin with one disciplined savings habit. A business can begin with one skill. A retirement fund can begin with $20, invested repeatedly. You don't need to be wealthy to build assets, but you must be willing to begin before you feel wealthy. The average person fails not because of circumstances, but because of impatience. They want the rewards of Chapter 20 while still living in Chapter 1. But wealth does not reward impatience. Wealth rewards consistency. Wealth rewards the person who keeps going long after the excitement wears off. To build wealth, you must use what you have. Start where you are, and grow with what you build. Your phone can become a studio. Your laptop can become a production house. Your skill can become a service. Your voice can become a brand. Your knowledge can become a digital product. Your discipline can become generational wealth. Don't aim for perfect. Aim for progress. Perfection suffocates action, but imperfect steps compound. When you start small, you create room to learn, to adjust, to experiment, and to improve. Everything great begins as something humble. And the truth no one tells you is this: your first asset is not the product you create, or the investment you buy, or the system you build. Your first asset is the person you become in the process. Because the moment you begin building, even at the smallest scale, you start transforming your identity. You become someone who invests, someone who creates, someone who owns, someone who thinks long-term, someone who plants and waits, someone who grows quietly and steadily. That transformation is the real foundation of wealth. Money simply follows. From this moment forward, you are no longer waiting. You are beginning. And beginning is the most powerful financial decision a person can make. Small is not insignificant. Small is strategic. Small is the doorway to forever wealth. You do not need more money to build assets. You need direction, structure, rhythm, and the courage to start now with exactly what you have. Wealth is not created by the rich. It is created by the consistent, and from here on, you are one of them. There has never been a time in human history where ordinary people had so much power within arm's reach. A laptop on a small desk, a phone on a nightstand, a key at room, a simple idea. These are no longer everyday objects. They are the tools of wealth. They are the modern factories of freedom. You don't need skyscrapers, offices, or massive capital to build an empire. In this era, digital assets have become the great equalizer. They don't care where you were born. They don't care what you studied. They don't care whether you come from privilege or from nothing. The digital world cares about one thing: the value you produce. And value, in this age, can be created from anywhere, even from the corner of your bedroom. Digital assets are the invisible machines of modern wealth. They are the videos that play when you sleep, the guides that sell without your presence, the content that keeps working long after you close your laptop, the systems that live online and quietly grow your income in the background. They are proof that your time does not need to be the source of your income, because your ideas can become the source instead. The first step to building digital assets is not technical, it is emotional. You must believe that what you know, what you've lived, what you can teach, what you can create, and what you can express has value. Most people never begin because they underestimate their uniqueness. They assume their knowledge is common. Their experience is ordinary. Their story is uninteresting. But nothing in your life is ordinary when viewed from the right angle. What feels obvious to you is a mystery to someone else. What feels simple to you is a solution to someone else. Digital wealth begins the moment you realize you already have value inside you. You only need to package it. Once you embrace this truth, everything you do online transforms. Your voice becomes a resource. Your thoughts become raw material. Your creativity becomes equity. Suddenly, you are no longer just using the internet. You are building on it. The next step is choosing the form your digital assets will take. There are many paths, but they all lead toward the same destination: scalability. A YouTube video can be watched 1,000,000 times without costing you a single extra hour. An ebook can sell around the world while you take a walk. A digital course can teach thousands without you repeating a single lesson. A blog can attract readers for years with no extra effort once it's published. A simple template can generate income every day with no maintenance. Digital assets have one magical characteristic: you build them once, but they work forever. That is why they are so powerful. In the physical world, your body is the limit. In the digital world, there is no limit. Your reach is infinite. Your audience is global. Your potential is uncapped. And the cost of starting is lower than it has ever been in history. But to build digital assets, you must accept something the wealthy understand deeply. The early stages of creation will feel slow. You will record videos that get only a few views. You will write posts that no one notices at first. You will launch products that sell only a handful of copies. You will build quietly in the shadows of the internet, long before the world knows you exist. This is not failure. This is the process. Every digital empire begins with a moment of obscurity. Those who endure it create success that appears overnight to everyone else. Consistency becomes your currency. Every video, every article, every small product, every lesson, every insight becomes a brick in your digital foundation. Some bricks will land softly, others will land powerfully, but each one matters. And when enough bricks accumulate, a structure emerges, a structure strong enough to support income, and eventually, wealth. The third step is automation. Digital assets become truly powerful when they operate without you. Sales pages that convert automatically, scheduling tools that post content while you sleep, email sequences that build trust on your behalf, payment systems that collect income instantly. Once your digital assets are supported by automation, your time becomes free to create, innovate, and expand. You no longer trade hours for results. You create structure, and structure produces results. Automation feels almost magical the first time it happens. You check your phone and see a payment notification. You open your laptop and find new subscribers. You wake up to a message from someone across the world thanking you for something you created months ago. In these moments, you realize that digital assets do more than generate money. They generate impact, they generate freedom, and they generate time, the rarest currency of all. The fourth step is scale. Once your digital asset works for 10 people, you expand it so it can work for 1,000. The digital universe rewards amplification. A single post can travel continents. A single idea can spark movement. A single digital product can reach more people in one day than a physical store could reach in a year. This is why digital wealth compounds so quickly. Technology multiplies everything you create, sending it farther and faster than any traditional business model ever could. But digital wealth comes with one more lesson: you must diversify. The internet changes quickly. Platforms rise and fall. Algorithms shift. Trends fade. To survive and thrive, you must build an ecosystem, a YouTube channel that leads to a product that leads to an email list that leads to long-term relationships, and a brand that exists independently of any platform. Diversification protects you. It makes your empire unshakable. Finally, the heart of all digital wealth lies in personal brand. People don't buy from content. They buy from connection. They buy from trust. They buy from personalities that feel real, human, consistent, and meaningful. Your voice becomes your asset. Your values become your compass. Your presence becomes your advantage. When you build digital assets, you are not just building income. You are building legacy. You are turning your mind into a marketplace. You are turning your experiences into an economy. You are turning your bedroom into a headquarters. And someday, when the systems run smoothly and your assets work quietly in the background, you will look around your small room and realize something profound. Everything you needed was already here. The tools, the ideas, the potential, the possibility. You didn't need a building. You didn't need permission. You didn't need wealth to begin. You needed only belief, consistency, and the courage to create something that lives beyond you. Digital assets are the new frontier of freedom, and from this point onward, you are no longer just a consumer of the digital world. You are a builder within it. Every person carries a hidden form of wealth, a quiet reservoir of value that often goes unnoticed, their skills, not the certificates on their wall, not the job titles on their resume, but the lived experiences, the instincts, the strengths, the insights, and the abilities shaped through years of work, trial, curiosity, and challenge. These skills, the ones you've collected without even realizing, are among the most powerful assets you will ever own. Yet most people never unlock them. They use their skills only to earn a salary, never to build a system. They trade their abilities for temporary income, never realizing they could transform those same abilities into something that pays them for life. Wealth does not begin with money. It begins with recognizing the value inside you. Your skills are your most underestimated currency. You may know how to communicate clearly, solve problems quickly, explain ideas simply, teach patiently, organize chaos, design beautifully, write effortlessly, analyze deeply, motivate others, or understand systems intuitively. You may know how to break down a concept, how to keep a conversation engaging, how to plan, how to lead, how to negotiate, or how to observe details most people miss. None of these skills are random. None of them are ordinary. They are the raw materials of wealth. When you stop seeing your skills as tools for survival and begin seeing them as tools for creation, everything changes. Your skills stop being something you use for work and start being something that works for you. The first transformation happens in your mindset. Instead of asking, "What job can I get with this skill?" you begin asking, "What asset can I build with this skill?" That shift alone has changed thousands of lives. It turns employees into creators. It turns workers into builders. It turns skill holders into asset owners. Once you make that shift, the world opens in ways you never imagined. A skill you mastered quietly years ago can become a digital course that thousands learn from. A technique you develop through experience can be turned into a guide, a workshop, or a system others will pay to use. A talent you barely noticed can become the foundation of a brand, a business, or a content library that generates income long after the initial creation. The things that come naturally to you are often the very things others struggle with, and they will gladly pay for clarity, direction, and solutions. The modern world rewards those who package their skills, not just those who perform them. This is why the digital age has created more self-made millionaires than any era before it. Not because people suddenly became smarter or more privileged, but because technology removed the barriers between creators and consumers. You no longer need permission to share your knowledge. You no longer need a company to validate your expertise. You no longer need a physical space or large capital to turn your skills into assets. You only need the willingness to begin. Turning your skills into assets begins with reflection. You must quietly ask yourself what you are naturally good at, even if you've never been praised for it. What do people often come to you for? What feels easy for you but difficult for others? What challenges make you come alive rather than shut down? When you identify these patterns, you begin to see the outline of your potential. The second stage is expression. Skills trapped inside your mind create no impact. Skills expressed publicly build wealth. Every piece of content you create, every lesson you share, Every insight you turn into a story is a seed. At first, it may feel like no one is paying attention, but the digital world rewards consistency. Every expression builds momentum. Every piece of content increases your visibility. And with visibility comes opportunity. As you express your skills regularly, you begin to develop something priceless, your voice. Your voice is not just the way you speak or write. It is the way you solve problems, the way you see the world, the way you connect ideas, the way you create clarity for others. Your voice becomes your identity in the digital marketplace. And in a noisy world, authenticity is rare enough to become an asset on its own. Once your voice is clear, the next step is packaging. You begin turning your skills into structures that live independently of you. A course that teaches what you know, a digital product that solves a problem, a template, a guide, a workbook, a tool, a set of lessons, a series of videos, or an online service that can scale without demanding your presence every hour. The moment you document what you know, you create something that can outlive the effort it took to build. The fourth stage is transformation, transforming your skill from something you own into something others can use. This requires clarity. It requires simplicity. It requires the humility to refine, to adjust, to improve the way you teach or deliver. This stage is where your skill becomes a system, and once it becomes a system, it becomes scalable. The final stage is expansion. When your skill is packaged, expressed, and structured, it begins attracting people naturally. Opportunities show up without forcing. Clients come without chasing. Sales arrive without pushing. Your name becomes a quiet signal of trust. And trust, in the modern world, is the highest form of currency. Over time, the digital assets built from your skills begin generating income in ways that feel almost surreal. A video brings in earnings while you rest. A course sells to a person you've never met. A guide you created months ago becomes someone's turning point. A system you recorded once becomes a lifetime income machine. And in those moments, you realize something powerful. Wealth is not about working more. Wealth is about multiplying what you already carry within you. Your skills are not just talents. They are chapters of your story. They are solutions waiting to be shared. They are assets waiting to be born. When you learn to recognize them, express them, package them, and scale them, you begin building wealth from the inside out. You begin creating something that earns long after the work is done. You begin transforming your identity from someone who works for money into someone whose mind generates it. Your skills are your most faithful employees. They never tire. They never quit. They never get sick. They grow with time. They improve with use. They compound with consistency. And once they begin working for you, your life will never be the same again. Real wealth does not rise and fall with your emotions, your schedule, or your energy. Real wealth does not disappear when you take a break. Real wealth is built on foundations strong enough to withstand time, crisis, inflation, and uncertainty. These foundations are called real assets, the timeless pillars of financial stability. Real assets are different from trends. They don't depend on hype, luck, or momentum. They don't vanish when a platform changes its rules or when a market takes a temporary dip. Real assets are steady, patient, and resilient. They form the backbone of wealth for generations because they serve human needs that never disappear. Every wealthy person Every single one builds their empire on real assets. Property, gold, dividend-paying companies. The details change from century to century, but the principles remain constant. Ownership is stability. Ownership is leverage. Ownership is power. Yet most people overlook these assets because they seem too slow, too boring, too ordinary. But wealth is not built through excitement. Wealth is built through accumulation, protection, and consistency. To understand real assets, you must step into a different mindset. A mindset that values permanence over thrill, long-term gain over short-term gratification, and steady compounding over quick wins. This mindset will feel calm, even quiet, at first. But inside that calmness lies a power most people never experience. Real estate is the first pillar of real assets, and perhaps the most misunderstood. People imagine mansions, towering buildings, or massive investments. But real estate begins far more humbly. It begins with the understanding that land is one of the few things in the world that cannot be replicated. There is only so much of it, and it will always be needed. Homes will always be needed. Space will always be needed. Shelter will always be needed. A small rental apartment, a modest home in a growing area, a shared property, a fractional ownership through modern platforms. Anything that generates cash flow or grows in value over time becomes an asset that works when you don't. Real estate is the quiet soldier of wealth. It protects you from inflation, provides recurring income, and appreciates slowly but reliably. Even one piece of property, over years, can shift your financial trajectory forever. Gold is the second pillar. While it may not produce income, it protects the wealth you've already built. For thousands of years, civilizations have risen and fallen. Currencies have come and gone. Markets have soared and collapsed. Yet, gold has remained constant in its purpose, preservation. Gold gives you balance. It gives you safety when uncertainty shakes the world. It is the quiet insurance policy of wealth builders, a timeless store of value that stabilizes everything else. The third pillar is ownership in companies that share their profits with you, known as dividend-paying stocks. This is one of the most accessible assets in modern times. These companies work every day, sell to millions, grow their value, and distribute a portion of their earnings directly into your hands simply because you own a piece of them. Imagine that. You are not working for a business, the business is working for you. Dividend stocks reward patience. They grow quietly through reinvestment. Every payout you receive becomes a seed for the next. Over time, the compounding becomes extraordinary. The amount you start with is irrelevant. The discipline to continue is what builds wealth. These three pillars, real estate, gold, and dividend-paying companies, complement one another perfectly. One provides cash flow. One preserves value. One grows exponentially through compounding. Together, they form a stable ecosystem of wealth that can endure recessions, inflation, and economic storms. Most people never begin because they believe real assets are out of reach. They imagine needing vast savings, perfect credit, or expert knowledge. But the truth is far simpler. You don't need to be wealthy to start with real assets. You become wealthy because you start. You begin with what you can afford. You learn. You adapt. You improve. You expand. A small monthly investment into a dividend fund, a tiny allocation into gold, a fractional piece of real estate through modern platforms. These are not symbolic gestures. They are the quiet beginnings of generational wealth, and with time, patience, and consistency, they grow into something powerful. The magic of real assets lies in their permanence. They don't require constant attention. They don't react to your emotions. They don't collapse because you took a break. They work while you rest. They grow while you sleep. They compound while you live your life. Real assets also change the way you see the world. You stop asking, "How much does this cost?" and start asking, "How much does this earn?" You stop seeing money as something to spend and start seeing it as something to deploy. You become strategic. You become intentional. You become the designer of your financial destiny, not the consumer lost within it. True wealth is quiet. It doesn't boast. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't fluctuate with moods or trends. It moves slowly, silently, consistently, like the rising sun, like the turning tides, like the passing seasons. Real assets embody this quiet strength. When you own assets that produce income, you are no longer living in survival mode. You no longer fear the future. You no longer depend solely on your job, your energy, or your circumstances. Your wealth becomes an ecosystem of support. It grows while you age. It protects you while you sleep. It serves you without demanding your time. This is the true goal of building assets that pay you forever, not luxury, not status, but stability, freedom, peace, control, the power to make decisions based on desire, not desperation. Eventually, real assets become more than financial tools. They become guardians of your time. They allow you to live on your terms. They provide the space to think, to create, to rest, to spend time with those you love, to pursue your passions. They buy you the one thing money alone can never purchase: your life back. And that is the foundation of long-term wealth. There is a quiet force in the universe that builds wealth more reliably than luck, talent, or even intelligence. It does not shout. It does not rush. And it never demands attention. It works in the background while you live your life. It is patient, consistent, and unbelievably powerful. This force is compounding the slow miracle that turns small beginnings into extraordinary outcomes. Most people never experience the full power of compounding because they misunderstand its nature. They think compounding is a financial trick, a mathematical function, a formula reserved for investors or economists. But compounding is far more than numbers. Compounding is a philosophy. It is the relationship between time, discipline, and growth. It is proof that wealth is not built by intensity, but by consistency. Compounding begins quietly. In the early stages, it feels almost disappointing. You save a little, you invest a little, you build a small digital asset. You create a piece of content that only a few people see. You open your investment account and watch it grow by a number so small it barely registers. And yet, that is exactly how compounding works. It hides its power in the beginning. Imagine planting a small seed in the soil. For weeks, nothing appears. The earth looks unchanged. If you didn't understand nature, you might assume nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, roots are forming, structure is developing, and strength is being built. Compounding is the same. The early stages happen underground, invisible but essential. Then one day, something changes. Growth accelerates. That tiny seed becomes a sapling, then a tree, then an entire ecosystem. What began quietly becomes unstoppable. Money works the same way. Knowledge works the same way. Skills work the same way. Content works the same way. Every valuable part of your life grows through compounding if you give it time. Most people quit before the compounding begins. They give up during the slow, invisible stage. They want results instantly. They expect transformation without time. They chase new opportunities because the old ones are taking too long. They abandon their efforts right before the curve bends upward. And that is why compounding separates the wealthy from the impatient. Compounding rewards the one who stays, the one who returns, the one who keeps going, the one who trusts the unseen. If you understand this truth, you will build wealth in a way that feels effortless. Because compounding does not require perfection. It requires repetition. It requires time. It requires presence. Think about your investments. A single contribution seems small, but month after month, year after year, that small amount becomes something meaningful, then something significant, then something transformational. The money you invested begins earning its own money, and then the money earned begins earning more. Each generation of growth creates the next. It becomes a chain reaction of abundance. Think about your skills. When you practice a little each day, 10 minutes of writing, a small lesson learned, a new technique explored, it doesn't feel like much. But over years, those tiny improvements stack on top of one another until you become someone unrecognizable from the person you once were. That is compounding. Think about your digital assets. A few videos, a few pages written, a few posts shared, a few customers served. It feels slow. But one day, the audience grows. The sales become consistent. The trust multiplies. The systems you built months ago begin to generate income while you sleep. That, too, is compounding. Compounding is the closest thing humanity has to magic. It bends time in your favor. It turns patience into profit. It transforms small beginnings into limitless endings. To harness compounding, you must treat time as an ally, not an enemy. Most people race against the clock. Wealth builders walk with it. They understand that time can either erode your life or elevate it, depending on how you use it. When you work with compounding, time becomes your greatest partner. Imagine watching a river carve a canyon. Each drop of water seems insignificant, but over years, the river shapes stone. It changes landscapes. Compounding works the same way. Small actions, repeated consistently, carve a path to freedom. The hardest part of compounding is accepting the calmness of the beginning. There is no rush of dopamine, no instant reward, no applause. It tests your belief more than your ability. But once the curve begins to rise, everything changes. Growth accelerates. Momentum builds. Results begin multiplying faster than your effort. This is why wealthy people often seem relaxed. They are not racing for every dollar. Their systems, their investments, their assets are doing the work. Compounding is providing the lift. They no longer push, they glide. Compounding is also how life repays discipline. The choices you make today, saving instead of spending, learning instead of scrolling, creating instead of consuming, look small, but compounding magnifies them. 10 minutes a day becomes mastery. One investment becomes generational wealth. One digital asset becomes a brand. One habit becomes a new identity. And because compounding works silently, it often goes unnoticed until the results become undeniable. One day, your portfolio looks different. Your income streams feel different. Your confidence feels different. Your life feels different. Not because you changed everything at once, but because you changed little things for long enough. This is the blueprint, the quiet blueprint that wealthy people follow, the blueprint that most people never discover, the blueprint that builds wealth in the background while they sleep, live, and grow. Compounding is not a secret. It is simply underappreciated, not because it is complicated, but because it is slow, not because it is hidden, but because it is subtle. But once you understand it, once you align your habits, your money, your skills, and your actions with the principles of compounding, you step into a new relationship with time. You stop chasing wealth. Wealth begins chasing you, because compounding is the one force in the world that rewards you even when you're not looking. It builds while you rest. It grows while you wait. It multiplies while you stay consistent. And that is how wealth works in the background. Wealth is not just money. Wealth is energy. It is movement, direction, intention. It is the flow of value traveling across time, across choices, across generations. Money itself is silent, but the way you treat it, the way you guide it, the way you protect it, that is what gives it voice. That is what transforms it from temporary comfort into lasting power. Many people believe building wealth is the final stage of the journey, but creation is only the beginning. The true mastery begins when you learn to protect what you've built, grow it with wisdom, and extend its impact beyond your lifetime. Wealth without protection is fragile. Wealth without expansion becomes stagnant. Wealth without purpose disappears. This final chapter is not about earning more. It is about becoming the kind of person who can steward wealth with clarity, wisdom, and long-term vision, the kind of person who becomes an architect, designing a structure that supports not just your life, but the lives of those who come after you. To protect wealth, you must first understand its nature. Wealth behaves like energy. It moves toward order and away from chaos. When you ignore it, it dissipates. When you fear it, it shrinks. When you misuse it, it collapses. But when you respect it, study it, and direct it, it expands. Protection begins with awareness, the awareness that money is not a trophy, but a tool. It is not security by itself, but a resource that requires structure. The first layer of protection is psychological. Fear, greed, impulsiveness, and ignorance are the four silent enemies of wealth. They erode fortunes faster than any recession. They sabotage decisions, distort judgment, and push people into choices that cost them years of progress. To protect your wealth, you must protect your mind. You must take the long view. You must see beyond the excitement of the moment and consider the arc of decades. When you operate from calm rather than urgency, from clarity rather than emotion, your decision becomes sharp. You stop chasing noise. You stop reacting to every fluctuation. You stop letting the world dictate your relationship with money. Wealth stays where the mind is steady. Once your mindset becomes your shield, the second layer of protection is structure. Every meaningful asset, a business, a property, a portfolio, even intellectual property, must have legal, strategic, and financial boundaries. These boundaries are not about fear. They are about foresight. They ensure that what you build is insulated from the unexpected. The wealthy do not rely on luck, they rely on architecture. They design their systems to withstand storms long before storms appear. But protection alone is not enough. Protection prevents loss. Expansion creates legacy. To expand wealth, you must understand that money grows in environments of intention. Expansion requires creativity, reinvestment, and the courage to enter new stages of opportunity. If you cling to the past version of your wealth, you limit its growth. Wealth responds to evolution. It grows when you grow. Every decision you make with money sends a signal, either multiply or diminish. Expansion begins when you consistently choose direction over distraction. True expansion is not reckless. It is strategic. It comes from studying where the world is moving, not where it has been. It comes from reinvesting profits into new skills, new technologies, new markets, new systems, new leverage. It comes from seeing money not as something to use, but as something to deploy. When your wealth begins to circulate with purpose, it accelerates. When it accelerates, it compounds. And when it compounds, it expands beyond anything you could have imagined at the beginning. But the deepest form of expansion is generational. Generational wealth is not about leaving money behind. Anyone can leave money behind. Generational wealth is about leaving the capacity behind the mindset, the knowledge, the discipline, the wisdom. Wealth is energy. Yes, but the vessel that carries that energy must be prepared. Without that preparation, wealth collapses in the hands of the next generation. Legacy is not built by giving people money. Legacy is built by giving people understanding. Your heirs, whether they are your children, your family, or the people you mentor, must learn how money flows, how assets behave, how to think long-term, how to protect what they earn, how to create what they need, and how to avoid the traps that destroy financial potential. You do not pass on wealth by transferring assets. You pass on wealth by transferring perspective. When you think of your wealth as energy, you begin to treat it differently. You no longer ask, "How much do I have?" Instead, you ask, "Where is this energy flowing? What is it attracting? Who is it serving? What future is it building?" Energy amplifies intention. If your intention is clear, your wealth multiplies with purpose. As the architect of generational wealth, your role is not simply to accumulate. Your role is to shape, to design, to build structures that continue creating value even in your absence. A trust, a portfolio, a business, a system, a philosophy, each one becomes a pillar that supports the next generation. You become the source from which growth continues long after you're gone. And here is the paradox. The more you build for others, the more your wealth expands for you. Wealth that is hoarded becomes stagnant. Wealth that is directed becomes abundant. Wealth that is shared becomes exponential. In the end, protecting and expanding wealth comes down to three truths. First, wealth is responsibility. When you have more, you must think more. More discipline, more foresight, more wisdom. Second, wealth is movement. It grows when guided, shrinks when ignored, and disappears when taken for granted. And third, wealth is energy. It flows toward those who respect it, understand it, and use it to create value for the world. One day, as your assets work quietly in the background, you will realize that wealth was never only about money. It was about time. It was about peace. It was about choice. And it was about building something that matters, something that outlives you. You are no longer just building assets. You are building continuity. You are building stability. You are building a future. You are becoming the architect of generational wealth. As you come to the end of this audiobook, take a moment to breathe. Let everything settle. Let the ideas, the lessons, the clarity unfold gently inside you. Wealth is not built in a rush. It is built in quiet decisions, quiet shifts, quiet moments where your mind opens and your perspective expands. You now understand something most people never learn, that freedom is not a fantasy reserved for the lucky. It is a structure anyone can build. It is a rhythm anyone can follow. It is a design you now hold in your hands. Your assets are no longer distant concepts. They are possibilities waiting for your first step. They are seeds you can plant today. Even with the smallest resources, they are machines that can grow with your consistency, your creativity, and your courage. And as you move forward, remember this: you don't need to transform your life overnight. You only need to begin. One habit, one investment, one asset, one decision that honors your future more than your fears. The rest will follow. If this audiobook brought clarity, inspiration, or a new sense of direction to your life, I invite you to stay connected. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and allow more of these calm, powerful lessons to guide you on your journey. Every week, you'll receive new stories, new strategies, and new tools to help you build a life where money works quietly in the background while you focus on what truly matters. Your future is already opening. Your wealth is already awakening. And tonight, as you rest, let every lesson in this journey remind you of one truth: you were never meant to survive. You were meant to build, and now you are ready.